Morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody who's joining us. Welcome to our second interview in the Global Issues Unfolded series. My name is Molly Shevchenko, and I'm Vice President of CARE.
Good morning, and I'm Sara, the President at CARE UFT.
All right, and today we're hosting Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much in these challenging days of the COVID and the world. But I hope 2021 will be hopeful and the post-COVID era for the world.
For sure, fingers crossed.
Yes.
Before we begin, though, we're just going to do a land acknowledgement. Though we're all tuning in from different areas of the world, it is important to recognize the land upon which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this island. It is important to understand the long-standing history that has brought us to reside on this land and to seek to understand our place within that history. Land acknowledgements do not exist in a past tense or historical context. Colonialism is a current ongoing process, and we need to build our mindfulness of our present participation. And that was from Northwestern University. Finally, CARE UFT stands as an ally of Indigenous people. We wish to acknowledge current treaty injustices, such as those relating to the fishing rights of the Sipekne'katik First Nations and the Mi'kmaq people in Nova Scotia, as well as the ongoing fight by the Haudenosaunee land defenders to protect their land from settler development in Caledonia, Ontario. Today and every day, we stand in solidarity with you.
Thank you so much, Molly. So today we're interviewing Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish. He's a Palestinian medical doctor and a professor at the University of Toronto. He's a 5-time Nobel Peace Prize nominee for his activism towards human rights and international peace, and he's often referred to as the Martin Luther King of the Middle East and the Gaza doctor in the media. Dr. Abuelaish was born and raised in Jabalia refugee camp in the Gaza Strip, where he received his elementary, preparatory, and secondary educations, after which he studied medicine at the University of Cairo and earned a diploma in obstetrics and gynecology with the Ministry of Health in Saudi Arabia in collaboration with the University of London. He also received a master's degree in public health, health policy and management at Harvard University, and was the first Palestinian doctor to receive a staff position at an Israeli hospital. He wrote a memoir in 2010 called I Shall Not Hate, which was translated into 16 languages, discussing how the tragedy that he experienced inspired his work towards peace and conflict. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so we'll just start with the interview now. So our first question is regarding the Palestinian refugee crisis. So the Palestinian refugee crisis continues, the number of Palestinian refugees continues to increase rather than decrease in size. And they are also dealt with differently through different UN organizations. So they're dealt with UNRWA and as opposed to UNHCR. And they're specifically defined as persons whose normal place of residence was Palestine during the period June 1st, 1946 to May 15th, 1948, and who lost both home and means of livelihood as a result of the 1948 conflict by the UN. Also, so the status of Palestinian refugees is also hereditary. So my question is, how do you believe that those constraints to Palestinian refugees have contributed to their conditions, and what do you think of the controversy around UNRWA itself?
Thank you so much. You raised an issue which is important. Molly mentioned the first thing to start with, acknowledgement. Acknowledgement of the land on which we are living these days, the indigenous people and the First Nations. And that's important to acknowledge and to recognize the problem, the history, the colonization. And this is the first step towards solving any problem. And still, even for the First Nations and the indigenous people, they are suffering. We recognize it. And it's good to acknowledge, but we need to walk the talk, and we need to bring them justice and to reconcile and to speak about the truth. It's important also concerning the Palestinian refugees continues to increase, not to decrease. We need to ask why the patient is not improving. In medicine, if I have a patient where he or she are suffering and I am giving a treatment and the patient is not improving, there is a problem. and we need to evaluate it and to see what is going on wrong there. Maybe the treatment is wrong, or the treatment is just a placebo. It's a palliative care. It's useless. So that's the main issue. And there is one thing I want you to fix in it. You mentioned here, they are specifically defined as persons whose normal place of residence was Palestine during the period of June 1st, 1946 to 15th of May, 1948. Palestinians, they have been living there the whole of their life. It's not within these 2 years. They are rooted, they are steadfast, and they created their life there. They are not newcomers to Palestine. Palestine is their homeland, and that's what we call it. It's Sumud. It's, you know, the land on which they live. It knows them. It's similar to their color, and it speaks to them. And even the trees, the olive trees, which is symbolizing the Palestinians' tradition and life, we gave the trees names of mothers and names of people there. Say they know each other. There's connection, intimate connection between Palestinians and the land on which they live. And in a sudden, of course, they were expelled from their homeland to become refugees. So the Palestinian refugees, it's an issue of human rights, because there are resolutions by the United Nations, the right of the return of the refugees. And that's the problem. When can we walk the talk of these resolutions to implement it, to endorse it in order to achieve justice? And that's the right treatment, lack of endorsement and enforcement. And we need to have order in our world. We need to have justice in our world, not to be biased, many standards, many colors. So we need to have one standard where it's applicable to all the people in our world, and to endorse these resolutions. And that's the challenge. It's the bias, it's the injustice and lack of enforcement and endorsement of the United Nations resolutions. And we need to, even each country, to be accountable to their acts. Anyone who is violating the international law, they are accountable, and it's the responsibility of the international community to take actions. Concerning the United Nations, the UNRWA, which was established in 1948, after 1948, especially for the Palestinians, which carries a political and a humanitarian cause, and now we are trying to politicize the human cause. It's a humanitarian, to provide a humanitarian support for the Palestinians till they return back to their homeland. But what is going on with the United States to cut the support, the donation to the United Nations, because this will never solve the issue, because Palestinian refugees and Palestinians in general, they will never give up their right, because they have the right. That's an issue, the right. When you have the right to live, no one can take your life. No one. You have the right to education. You have the right to employment. So it's a human right, and it's a challenge to the international community, to the world, to give hope in starting solving the Palestinian issue, including the Palestinians, refugees, as it is a right. And this, believe me, it gives hope to the world, and it has an impact around the world. It's not just only for the Palestinians, it's about the world in which we live. Do we want to live in this situation, the power which controls, or the human values and the human rights which prevail in our world? We don't live in a jungle. We live in a world. It's enough. What do we face these days? You see it. Coronavirus equalize between all of the people here, and all are a threat, and all are potential victims. Why not to equalize between people and start to implement and endorse equal human rights to everyone in this world, and no one is left behind?
That was an incredible response. You touched on so many things. I really appreciate your point about actually walking the talk and engaging those like principles or statutes that the UN are putting in place and everything like that, and how this is a human issue. This isn't a political issue. Humanitarian crises, like refugee crises, it's not politics, it's human rights. And that's a really important point that you brought up.
Because it's important, we should zoom in, not to sit among the audience watching what is happening in the world, because these refugees who are suffering, Palestinians, Syrians, Yemenis, from Libya, from everywhere, from Afghanistan, from many other countries, who are they? We need to put ourselves in their position. What do we expect from the world if I was the refugee? And that's what is needed, not just, because as I said, we all are potential victims in this world. And it's the responsibility of the international community, because Palestinians crisis and the refugee crisis in this world, it's not a natural disaster, it's man-made. It's man-made. So why not the people who are making it to be accountable and to take actions to solve it in a just and peaceful way?
For sure. I mean, like you said, like it's a man-made issue. We need to start like looking for like tangible and actual ultimate solutions, not just like bandaging over things or kind of like pacifying different issues that are currently going on.
We can't treat patients really just in palliative care. If I have a wound, I have to close the wound completely, even not to leave any millimeter of that wound, because otherwise it will be infected and it will continue. It's important to do it in the perfect way, in the right way that inspires and gives hope to the people in our world.
For sure. Thank you so much for answering that question and going into so much detail. So our next question will be, you grew up in Jabalia camp in Gaza. Can you tell us more about your childhood and growing up there? And what were the conditions like?
Of course, once you mention Jabalia camp, which I miss, I was born there, lived there, raised there. And when I follow the news these days with my people, with my family, because my extended family is still there, we need to ask, what do we mean by the word refugee? What is a refugee? A refugee, someone who has a home, has a land, has his dignity, his loyalty, his nationality, and overnight, by man-made action, to be thrown outside, deprived, naked of his or her dignity, waiting for humanitarian aids to face their fate, the challenging fate, not aware what will happen tomorrow. And the refugees, they are fighting all of the time on daily basis in any camp, in Jordan, in Syria, in Turkey, the Syrian refugees, the Yemenis, they are fighting just to survive. They are living their day. But who are paying the major price of it? Mostly women and the children. Refugees issue and the tragedy and the crisis, it's a human tragedy. So to be raised in a refugee camp, you live that day, but you don't know if you are living tomorrow. Deprivation, abject poverty, suffering. You don't have the vital needs that you need to live. In one room, I see it these days, even more than 70 years. The Palestinian refugees in the camps, they are facing the same challenges, but they didn't give up because they believe in their right. And no one can take their right from them because they believed in it and they live for it and they will never give up. Whatever the challenges, they will never be broken or be defeated in spite of all of the challenges everywhere against them. You see, the living conditions in Gaza Strip, I want to ask anyone, can you tolerate to be disconnected from internet for 30 minutes? How do you feel? Or in winter, we live in Canada, we are blessed. Can you live without electricity, without power for 30 minutes? How do you feel? In Gaza Strip and Palestinian refugees, they count the hours for electricity. How many hours? And they reach a moment to count how many calories each individual is in need just to survive. But Palestinians, they were determined and to find their way through education and through their faith and belief in their rights. Can say to you, the life is unbearable in Gaza Strip and in the Palestinian refugees. Gaza Strip, they said it, the United Nations, not me. It's unliving conditions will be by 2020, and 2020 is over soon. So how the world that we claim that we are human and we are advanced and we promote human rights and human values to tolerate, to see Palestinians living these conditions. It's very sad, but I said to you, Palestinians are steadfast, they are very resilient, and they are determined not to give up, and they give example. No one, I can say, no one on earth have been tested as the Palestinian people. They are tested on daily basis in their life, in their loved ones, in their living conditions, in every aspect of life. In spite of that, they are succeeding. And that's the hope. Where the world has to learn and to change course and to implement and to support justice, not bias, to support the humanity, to support the oppressed, not the oppressor, the occupied, not the occupier, because by the end, all are occupied, all are suffering. The Palestinians' freedom is from others' freedom. No one is free as long as others are not. So it's time to stand up for the freedom of all. And that's what do we need as we stand these days. In spite of it is not perfect, 100% with COVID, there is still also social gradient who is paying the price of COVID, but still nothing is 100% perfect, but still we are working together to bring collaboration, partnership, sharing, and working together to defeat and to contain and eradicate COVID. Why not to work together to bring justice to the Palestinians? All will benefit from it. Not only Palestinians, even the Israelis will benefit from it.
Thank you so much for sharing so much about your experience. It is truly inspiring to see all that you have been through and how you're so courageously dealing with it and talking about it. And I also wanted to ask you, because so the Jabalia camp is the closest to the Erez border, crossing with Israel. And before the second Intifada, there were like 21,000 Palestinians who crossed the border to work in Israel each day. However, after the second Intifada in 2000, the vast majority of people in Gaza were not able to apply for an exit permit. In general, there are numerous checkpoints that limit Palestinians from moving freely. And you were just talking about the conditions, and I was wondering how and to what extent does that affect the lives of Palestinians in refugee camps and within Palestine in general? Like, how does it make their lives more difficult in general in the conditions?
It's important to understand the context in which the Palestinians, they live. And I will speak about the Gaza Strip. When we speak about Gaza Strip, we need to analyze it. What do we mean? Gaza and the Strip. You know the meaning of a strip. It's a piece of land. It's about 90 kilometers wide by 40 kilometers long. Do you know how many people they live in Gaza Strip? More than 2 million people in this small piece of land. The majority of whom are refugees. They live in refugee camps. But the good condition and the good issue that Gaza Strip has the highest literate number of people, the highest educated people. Undergraduate degree is something anyone can have. They have the highest master's graduate degrees in the Gaza Strip, but they are deprived of the most important need for humanity. It's their freedom. Gaza Strip is closed from all borders, from the sea, from Israel, closing the borders, even Rafah border, which is closed. From the south, the Rafah border is the connection between Palestine and Egypt, and they open it infrequently every few months for the crossing. My son went to visit Gaza last September, and he was stuck to volunteer there. He graduated from Rotman School of Business, and he went there to help his people. He was stuck there because of COVID, and he planned to come back. By the end, when the borders were open, he left Gaza Strip Thursday, the other Thursday, early in the morning, to arrive Canada Sunday morning. About 80 hours between borders to be deported from Rafah border to Cairo airport, to be kept there, not to see any people, to be stranded till he informs us that I arrived Cairo airport to book him a flight to come back to his home. Who can tolerate this with intimidation, humiliation, suffering? They are human beings. They deserve the freedom. So you see it these days, the unemployment rate in Gaza, because it's closed, violence, unemployment, poverty. Unemployment is about 60% in the Gaza Strip. What is the value for people, those who were born in 2000, they experienced 4 wars, 2008, 12, 14, and 15. Those who were born in 2020 till now, they graduate and they finish and they don't have any job. They are sitting at home. And you know, there is poverty, everything bad follows. So poverty is the enemy. Lack of freedom is the enemy of humanity. And that's the situation when you speak about where is a checkpoint? It's closed. No one can cross the border. The people, in spite of this, when they open Rafah border, they are happy. And who is going there? The sick patients to be treated in Egypt, or those who are traveling abroad, they have jobs abroad. In spite of that, they have to tolerate all of the suffering, all of the humiliation in order to survive. I can say to you, I go back to Gaza to visit. I missed it. I was supposed to be in summer. I can't tolerate it. The people, they don't know what to do. They are walking in the streets. I say, what are you doing? They say, we are walking. Because there is no plan. They don't have, by the end of the tunnel, to see a light. And they can't plan. Gaza Strip is a timed bomb. And then the world will blame. Say, instead of blaming, ask yourself, what did you do? Violence Violence, no one is born violent. We can make people to be violent. We can make people to hate us. It's the result of exposure. Once I expose you to something wrong, what do you expect from me? Every action has a reaction, a negative reaction. If you give me a positive action, I respond to it with a positive reaction. If you did something harmful, what will be the reaction of people? And that's the situation. It's sad. And it's an appeal. It's a cry to the world, even to the neighboring countries. How can they tolerate to watch it? And mostly, that's the most important. You know, most of the Gaza Strip population, more than 50% are below the age of 16. So they are children. And the 20% are women in their reproductive age. So it's a humanitarian crisis, women and the children.
Thank you so much for going into so much detail about all of those issues with Gaza, because I was honestly just going to ask you if the conditions in different other like camps like Deir al-Balah and Rafah camps or like that were the same conditions, and you have already answered that question. And thank you so much for telling us so much about your experiences about the conditions. It is very important for people to be able to learn about this information, because it's not very readily available, and it's difficult to know about the conditions within the cities within Gaza and within Palestine in general. So it's very important to be able to tell people about all of this in so much detail. So we thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Molly, did you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, for sure. I was also just going to say, I really appreciate how you bring a human aspect to it. You talk about how when people learn to hate or people learn to love, it's all about exposure. So we're exposing people to more hatred, to more wrongdoing. Obviously, they're going, like you said, there's a reaction for reaction. I thought that was a super important point. I think that is just a very, very like basic principle that can be applied to so many different things and so many different like solution plans to create a more peaceful and just existence for refugees, and specifically in this instance, Palestinian refugees.
It's important to ask why, always. I encourage even my students, when there is something wrong, to ask, not to blame someone who is doing something wrong, or a student who is not doing well in the class. I will ask why, not to blame. Always, if you face any challenge with anyone, ask 5 times why. Why is this happening?
For sure. That's you. Again, you're bringing up incredible points. So the next question that we have is, what kind of struggles do you believe Palestinian refugees face even after moving somewhere else? In other words, what are some of the difficulties that you continue to face whilst living in Canada?
Palestinians, they face many challenges, of course, even when they travel with their freedom, with their movement everywhere in the world, like the stigma. Palestinians and the freedom of movement from one country to the other. I am in Canada. I am Palestinian Canadian. I remember when, before getting my citizenship, to travel everywhere, I have my Palestinian passport. When I travel, I need a visa to every country I go. And once they see the passport, all of the countries, without exclusion, they see the Palestinian passport, it raises a flag, a red flag. Come aside. Why? Of course, we are different. We are different, but not in the way they think. We are different that we are a nation. We are people with hopes, with the dreams, with the plans. And we are succeeding. And we can make life from death and from the pain and suffering and the humiliation. We will send hope to the world. And this will never let us down. I know it's hard. I tolerate it because we are people who are focused and we want to achieve our goals. whatever the challenges we are facing. And that's the biggest challenge, to take responsibility, not to be broken, not to be defeated by anyone. Don't give them this opportunity to enjoy it. So it's important. When I got my citizenship, nothing changed about me. I am the same, Izzeldin. The same professor at U of T, the same person who is doing, but only the travel document changed. Why did the world change its treatment to me? But I am the same person. Is it because of this travel document? Why not to treat people, as a human? And that's, of course, I am grateful to be Canadian, to recognize my humanity. But how about other Palestinians in this world? I succeeded in my life, but I will never, ever forget from where did I come. I will never forget my people. I know the meaning of the suffering. So I will, and what provokes me to be angry when I see someone is suffering. Not only about Palestinians, about other people, because the one who is burned by the fire of suffering knows the meaning of it and doesn't want anyone else to pass or experience it. So that's the situation with what is going on. Even when I came to Canada, life is not easy. With many challenges, I came to Canada, of course, with my living 5 children who are traumatized. As a single parent, they lost their mother, their sisters, a change of culture, educational system. But I remember it. I said to them, we have to succeed. Canadians are not smarter than us. I don't know the meaning of failure. It's not in my vocabulary. We have to succeed because I believe life is what we make it. Always has been, always will be. It's in our hand not to let anyone shape our life. So I used to say to my children, if Canadians, they study 1 hour, we need to study 6 hours. And thanks God, where have we been? With all of the challenges I faced, my children, I am proud of them. 2 of my daughters graduated from engineering at U of T. My son graduated from Rotman School of Business. My 3rd daughter, a 3rd year at U of T, and my youngest son, who came here when he was 6 years old, his 1st year at Schulich School of Business. And that's the message. We are a living nation, and we will continue to live till we have our rights. And that's the message to our world and to the people around.
Thank you so much for going into this. It's often difficult to try to understand what are sort of difficulties that a lot of refugees, including Palestinian refugees, go through even after leaving areas of conflict. It is important to always and thank you so much for talking more about that. And we wanted to go more into, can you hear me? Is it cutting off?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So we wanted to go more into your experiences because you've talked a lot about them and we find them very inspiring, and we just want to talk more about that. You did write a memoir that was called I Shall Not Hate, Agaza Doctor's Journey on the Road to Peace and Human Dignity. And you wrote in the book a good chapter in a bad story. That's a quote from the book in reference to how you try to find positivity in everything. And you also mentioned in your TED Talk at the University of Waterloo, and I personally love that quote, that the biggest weapon of mass destruction is our hate. I was just wondering, how were you able to maintain your views on peace and communication despite the tragedy that you and your family suffered on January 16th, 2009? And how are you able to sort of control this anger and prevent it from turning into hatred? Because that's very difficult to do.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you. You know, of course, I wrote my book. I was supposed to write my book years before about my life. From where did I come as a Palestinian refugee? What did I achieve in my life? Because I don't believe in impossible things. The only impossible thing I believe in is to return my daughters back. And from where did I come? I did my MD in Cairo University, specialized in London, UK, to work in Israel, to go back to London to do another subspecialty, to Harvard University. I wasn't born with a golden spoon. Everything I did, I achieved it, of course, with hard work and the support of my illiterate mother and father, that they believed in me, and you have to do it. So I did it, and I'm proud of it. So I wrote my book, From Where Did I Come, to send a message of hope, to inspire. That's why it's not about Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It's about our world. It carries a human universal message of hope. So that's the book. And with all of the challenges I faced, what gave me the strength to face it? Can say the most important for me, I am a person of faith. I am proud of my faith. I am a Muslim. And I believe Islam is a religion of mercy, of kindness, of tolerance, of patience. And patience is not a weakness. Patience is a value. Forgiveness. And that's what is important. So faith is vital. And I believe in that. And hatred, when we speak about hatred, what do we mean by hatred? And that's my work these days at research. Hatred is a contagious, destructive disease. To whom? To the one who is afflicted by it, like COVID. COVID impacts the one who is affected by it, and it spreads to others. But it spreads to whom? To the close circle of contacts, to the loved ones, to the people with whom you live. So I will never, and with hatred, which disturbs the homeostasis and the balance of the human body. Hatred makes the human being to be blind, paralyzed, heavy, can't walk, can't move, not to function well. It impacts our functionality and our well-being. So if you face any challenge, don't let hatred to approach you. I know it's not easy, the wound is there, but if you are strengthened with faith, strengthened with your passion, with your determination, with your confidence in yourself, your belief in your abilities, to take this challenge and to transform it into energy to make the change, and not to be defeated again. Don't accept to be a victim more than once. If someone did harm to you, you are a victim of that act. So if you started to hate and to be impacted with this destructive disease, Now you are a victim of this destructive disease, and you are gone. Don't accept it. Take responsibility. Think of yourself. Forgive yourself from this harm. That's why I said the biggest weapon of mass destruction is the hatred in ourselves, in our hearts, in our minds, in our souls. So instead of that, build a shield around yourself against hatred and take this a challenge, this calamity you face, to energize you, to transform it. And as we say it, and I believe it, the antidote of hatred is success and moving forward. Some people, they think the opposite of success is failure. I said that's not. Failure is the incentive, it's the trigger behind success. But if you accept success as opposite of the failure, you will never move forward. You can, and that's why in many times you need to move backwards in order to reflect on what is happening, to be energized, to get the confidence, and then you move stronger. And that's the positive resilience we need. To be positive resilient, you go down, then you jump stronger to go beyond where you started. Armed, personally, always, I am armed with my faith, my experience, life experience, my education, of course, and that's my profession as a medical doctor. So I move with it. And that's what is needed, because in my faith, I believe in it. If all the world wants to do me harm and God does not, they will never succeed. And if all the world wants to do me harm and God does not, they will never. So I believe in that. And even I remember it at the time of the tragedy, when I saw my daughters and the world was watching what is happening in Gaza silently, doing nothing. Because for me as a medical doctor, if I see a patient bleeding, what do? I rush to stop the bleeding, to give help. The world was watching it, counting Palestinians, 100,000, 1,200 were killed, like just numbers, statistics. And that's what makes me angry. I don't accept any human being to be just statistics. They have names. We are talking with each other. Molly, you have a name, you are a school, you have parents, you have hopes, you have dreams, you have life. And Sarah, the same. Not just numbers to say one or two. What do you mean by one or two? It's shame. So at that time, I lost faith in humanity. But I didn't lose faith in the one who is awake all of the time. The one who watches us all of the time, who listens to us. So I directed my face just to God and said, oh God, oh Lord, Ya Allah, Ya Rab, to give me the strength, because I believed in it and God was there, as always will be there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I was trying to fight back tears there. That was very, very moving, and it's so inspiring how you've taken these forces, like the support and the encouragement from your loved ones, your faith, your education, your profession, and you've taken these like universal forces and you allow them to guide you and inspire you to continue to love, to continue to seek out like positive and peaceful solutions rather than to fall back into this like cesspool of like hatred or like upset. It's really, really, really inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you. Um, so our next question is, you use your profession as a healthcare practitioner to advocate for peace, and you also advocate for female education as an instrument of peace. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about the link between them and how it can contribute to future peaceful relations within the world?
When I ask you a question, what is health? And these days, what is health? What is peace? We need to reflect on it. When I ask someone what is health and what is peace, what is freedom, what is education, health, peace, freedom, justice, life, well-being, depend on who you are and where you are. Now, someone who is hungry, if I ask him or her, what is health? She wants food. Someone in Canada, now at home, a woman with her kids, I ask her, she is unemployed, she was laid off. What is health? I want to get a job. Someone in a prison, what is health? I want to be free. Someone is homeless, what is peace for you? I want to have a home. So as I said, health and peace and all of other human needs, freedom, justice, equality, depend on who you are and where you are. If you are a man or a woman, if you are in Toronto or First Nations, if you are in Canada or in Palestine or in Afghanistan or in Syria. So we should never have one size fit. We need to match it to the needs of the people. And when we speak about health, it is not about disease or disability or infirmity. Health is in every aspect of life. It's about everything in life we need. It's about social, mental, spiritual, environmental health. And the same for peace. We need to have peace. It's not about absence or conflict or disease. We need to have peace between each of us, among us also, and with the environment in which we live. Peace is a relationship. It's not just peace, it's a word. That's the negative peace, and that's the negative health. When we speak about health, absence of disease or infirmity, or peace as absence of conflict or war. This is a negative peace. We live in Canada. Do you think all of the people are healthy and they are in peace? No. So we need to promote, and I believe in the interconnectedness between health and peace. Inseparable relationship between health and peace. What is the unit? We need to ask, what is the unit structure of the human body? It's the cell. If one cell to suffer, what happens to the human body? All of the human body will suffer. And the same, the unit structure of any society is the individual. If one individual is suffering, all of the community to suffer from it. So that's what we need, to zoom in and to be interconnected. You are, I am sure you have your parents. If you have exam and you are doing the exam, what do you think your parents, what are they thinking of? Where is their mind?
Probably me doing well on the exam.
Yes, they will be mentally connected to you. If your mother, God bless our mothers, if you feel, even you were a child and she is working mother, and her child has some fever and she is going to work, do you think is she going to function well? Her mind will be with you. And that's what we call, she is not healthy mentally at that moment. She is not in peace, because her peace and her health is connected with your health and your peace. So that's what we need, to redefine health, to redefine peace, and to take it in a comprehensive, holistic approach, interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approach, and to promote that holistic, comprehensive peace in our world, not to be localized and focused on one aspect of the health and peace. And that's what I believe in it, and that's what I like and would like also to work to promote, the health and peace. And health, if we use health interconnected with peace, and to value health, because we need to be healthy. Once we are healthy, we are in peace. The health for all and the peace for all. That's why my course that I use, health an engine for the journey to peace. Because our life, our health, our peace is dynamic, not static. It's a journey. So we need to continue to keep moving, not to be static. And that's the life. The patterns of life are changing. Everything in life is changing. We need to be resilient, to be tolerant in order to keep healthy. And these challenges and these changes we face, to tailor them to accommodate the needs of the human beings.
Thank you so much for sharing that and for pointing out the such holistic view of health. And because I believe that thinking of health as disease, only merely disease, is a privilege. And so pointing out the diversity of how health could be perceived is very, very like eye-opening and inspiring. Because honestly, I feel like I never thought about health in that way. And I feel like I learned so much with you talking about it from this perspective. And I do acknowledge my privilege of not thinking about it in this way, but it's also always important to try to think about it in other people's perspectives. So thank you so much for...
it's my pleasure. And you know, I take an example. You know Helen Keller. You know of Helen Keller. She suffered. Is she healthy or not? She made a huge change and impact worldwide. In spite of the challenges she has, but she made a challenge. And that's what we need to see. She is healthy, humanly, and even spiritually, mentally, with her determination. And she can be a good example. You know, someone really these days with any chronic disease, and if it is managed, we can't say that he is unhealthy. He is healthy, he's controlled. Someone blind, he can be more healthy and more peaceful and more humane than anyone who is not blind.
Yeah, that's so true. Thank you so much for that. And well, those views are very, I would say, new, because I've never heard them before. They're very no one really looks at things the way that you've just talked about and the way that you do. So I was wondering how, like, your use of your profession, like as a healthcare practitioner, to advocate for peace, and did that sort of did you ever face like backlash or contradictory opinions when you advocate through peace through those means instead of like political means and stuff like that? And if you do face backlash, how do you respond?
Yeah, and it's important. I want you to know, you live in Egypt, and now you know Taha Hussein. He was blind. What do you think of Taha Hussein, Sarah? You can speak about him, and you can give the audience some information about Taha Hussein.
Oh, I think Taha Hussein was like a literature. He wrote books, and he was. I remember the story because I did take Arabic.
He is worldwide. He is worldwide and international, and he was blind, and his books were translated worldwide.
He was blind because it was because of mainly like false medicine kind of thing. Like he couldn't see well, and then wasn't it like that? And then his mom started like putting oil in his eyes because they thought that this works. Isn't it the story? Because I remember that, but I could be wrong.
No, but it's important. You see, I see when we say someone is blind, it's not the blind of the eyes, the blind of the mind and the heart. So it's important. He has open heart and open mind, and he sees with his heart and his mind. Some people, they see, they have good sight or vision physically, but believe me, they are blind by heart and mind, and they have sealed hearts. So that's the difference. So it's important. Concerning what you said, concerning my views, of course, I am not here. I'm doing what do I believe in a kind way. And of course, maybe some people, they don't, but the majority with whom I met, the message resonates with them. And always in my life, I see the positive. And even if someone is not agreeing with what I said, I have to be kind. And because some people, they think kindness, resilience, tolerance are signs of weakness. They don't know that they need a lot of courage and energy more than being rude. So I have to understand other people. I care about the people and to listen to them. That's important. We need to keep the channels of communication. We don't want to antagonize. We need to have a goodwill that what do we want? And to show passion, empathy to the others. Even the people that don't agree with me, it doesn't mean that they are my enemy. They have their own opinion. I respect it. I think of it. If it goes with what do I believe in or what I think of, I accept it. If not, I try as much as I can to discuss it with them and to find a way. Of course, some people, sometimes they see things with their own sight. I mean, even not all the sight, with one eye. So I say to them, we have to see the full picture. And try it in your life. When you are sitting with some people there, you see all of them with your two eyes. Try to close one eye. What happens to the people that you see? Do you see all of them? No. So you missed half of the view. And that's the problem, judging by one side. And the coin has two sides. So you need to see things in the full picture. I faced it with some people. I try in a kind way to explain it to them. Widen your zoom. Don't limit the zoom. Think of others. Think of others. That's the most important. You are not alone in the field. There are other people there in the field. Unless you are one team player and you play instead of all the teams. You are playing by yourself in the field. So it's important. And I don't take it to the heart if there is someone to challenge or to say anything. I respect it. I care about it. And by the end of the day, I feel satisfied what I did. I don't have any bad feeling against anyone. And I try to clean or to clear any misunderstanding. We need to take responsibility. Really, to apologize is important. If you made a mistake, to acknowledge. Believe me, it gives you value. It gives you value. Don't feel you are weak. So we need to encourage taking responsibility, these good values, to apologize, to respect, to be kind with others, to forgive others. And that's the way we need to spread them. And as I said, think of others all of the time who are in need, who are suffering. Try to do good things. It's not about giving, making, and doing good things. Some people, they say, oh, to give money. No, it's not about money. You have many things to do. What are you doing now with your work? It's a blessed work. You can give a smile to someone, a touch to a child, to visit a patient, to say kind word to someone, to smile, to help. That's what is needed. These values, we are human. And these values that I'm talking, social actions, they are contagious. If I see you walking and I said to you, good morning, and some people behind, believe me, it impacts them. And the second day, they will start to spread like viral. So these are the social contagious values. We need to spread them, to be kind, to be tolerant, to be resilient, to show empathy and passion with each other.
The way that you approach life, like with this holistic approach, you like accept everything, you see things from so many different perspectives, is so admirable. And I like how you've kind of construed like potentially conflicting opinions, not something like of an attack, but a message should be interpreted, you know, like you said, like if you don't get it at one point, you ask them, you discuss them as much as you can so you can try and understand them, or you can like try and explain, oh well, like in my opinion, like such and such, you know, rebuts like the point that you made. But it's just so interesting, like the concepts of like having like discourse and respect, and like you said, like just spreading kindness and spreading this or like promoting this holistic approach to life can result in so many like positive discussions and a lot more of a like a less adversarial world per se.
Yeah, it's important. You know why? Because I am a focused person. I don't want to be distracted. I don't look backwards or to look to the sides. You know, in marathon, anyone, have you participated in marathon? Any of you?
Like a 5 kilometer run, but not a real marathon.
Okay, good. It's good that you participated in marathon. So if you participate in marathon, anyone who is, what do you want? To achieve the goal, to reach the end as soon as possible. But anyone in the marathon who is always looking backwards to see who is behind or the sides, others will pass him, because with every turn you look backwards, your speed slows down. So don't look, and to be distracted, don't look backwards. Don't look to the sides. Be focused. You have a goal there. And there are some people, they want to distract you and to leave the path. So keep moving in your own way. And this is a good example. Another good example, don't fear. I don't fear people. And I keep, because I have peace inside. You know, what is the speed of the deer? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, the speed of the deer is about 90 kilometers per hour. What is the speed of the lion? Which is faster, the lion or the deer?
Pretty sure it's the lion, maybe.
Oh,
Is it?
lion.
I think it's the deer because they're trying to get away from the lion.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
that's
excellent.
true.
Good.
Okay.
So the lion is 60 kilometers per hour. So the deer is faster. But why all of the time when the lion is running behind the deer, the lion catches the deer? Do you know why?
Maybe.
The fear, the
Yeah.
fear, the fear. And all of the time, the deer turns back. So don't look backwards or on the sides. Keep moving forward. That's the most important. Be focused. And there are some people, they want to distract you. I respect them. God bless them. I say, God bless you. I am keeping moving. I keep moving forward. And that's the answer to their questions. When you reach there by the end, that's the message. You can send it back to them. You tried to slow me down, and my achievements, my successes is my answer to you. And there are some people, they don't understand the message to interpret it. Later on, they will learn it. Oh, wow, really, he was right. And she was right in what she said. It takes time to them to interpret, to understand it. Give them the time and keep moving.
Exactly.
Yes.
You make a good point. All right. Thank you for those analogies. I mean, they're really applicable in life, because if you keep turning around, you're not going to be able to see what's right in front of you, like all the good things that you have, because you're so worried about what's in the past or what's following you.
Because this is important, really, you know, I can say to you, that's what another issue with the academic education. And I like what do you do now as future leaders and as students now. Students and academic education is not limited to the school. Not to teach math or science, biology, medicine. We are teaching human beings. outside of the context of the academic institutions. And that's what I believe in. Academic education should transcend the walls of the buildings. Otherwise, it has a value, but limited value. Academic education should have a social, a human, healthy, peaceful, just, good relations and well-being in the world. That's the kind of academic education. What is the value of academic education that is limited and doing harm to our human beings? To have a positive impact on all, mostly. Because academic education, it can be kidnapped or to be a double sword. We need to have it one edge, to be focused for good cause.
For sure. I mean, now we're going to segue into a question about academic institutions. And this will be our final question, but 100% agree that there should be like, we should be teaching not just information or not just like critical, well, we need critical analysis, but a means of like taking those skills and transferring them to the real world to help people and to make the world a better place. Yeah, so our final question, again, thank you so much for doing this interview. Our final question is, what has been a memorable moment for you in teaching at the University of Toronto Dalla Lana School of Public Health? What are some of the ideas and insights that have been brought forward by students during class discussion? And do such insights and ideas bring you hope for peace in the future?
No, I am happy really, with teaching the students. Just we finished the course, Women and Women's Health in Countries in Conflict. I learn from the students. I believe in them. I feel inspired by the students and proud of them. As I said, because I believe in them. Why? Because they are honest, they are sincere, they are not poisoned. They speak what do they feel. And they are the hope. They are the hope of the future we want. So we want to build and to have and to invest in the students and their education in order to change the future of our world. So I am proud of my teaching. What do I teach? And I feel the interest, and always I speak with them with passion, with empathy, really, that's what is important. It's not about talking, teaching them from the tongue. You need to connect with the heart and to show care to them and to support them and to be available to them all of the time, whatever they need to support. And if there is any challenge they face, immediate, I try to be a coach, counselor, advisor to them, to build a human relationship based on respect, understanding, and support. So it's important for me with these students, even after we finished the course, they thought of starting a campaign about women's role in peace building and decision making, because we know women are not fully engaged and participating in peace negotiations or peace talks or even in policy making. Even in many countries in the world, in peace treaties, only 13% of women are participating. But women, they constitute more than 50% of the population. And even in any country in conflict or in any country, even in peace, there is disproportionate representation, though they pay the major price of the development of any country. Women, they pay the major price and they participate more, raising children, they do everything, working force, everything. So they need to be sitting on the table in making decisions. Men and women, they complement each other and they need to work together as equal based on, of course, the potential to get the role. Women, they are not in shortage of potential. They give life, they nurture life, they support, they have the potential. What is needed to give the means and the opportunity and the role. So that's what are we starting now to have this campaign, the students, and to have a course, a summer, in winter, to start also a direct reading course to help the students with it. And the students, that's the initiative they started. And that's the kind of work which gives me hope that there is an impact. It's a small act, but you can build on it, because everything starts small, then becomes big. Everything starts in one place and goes in different directions. You see, this interview now, you are there, Sarah in Egypt, I am here in Toronto, 3 of us. I am sure it would reach many people and in many places.
It is truly like you talking about the disparity in like gender representation, and especially right now, like in Arab countries in general, like because I grew up there, this disparity, like the attention to it itself is still starting. It's not just that the disparity is there, it's that the awareness of the disparity is not even there. So that's like a whole other issue as well. So it's really important that you brought that up.
It's important about, and that's an issue, it's important about awareness, because most of the challenges, they come from ignorance. So we need to tackle this ignorance by spreading awareness, knowledge, and information. Because as long as you don't know, you are not going to take action. You are not aware. So we need to increase awareness. This is important. But by the way, it's not only in Arab world, it's everywhere. You know, even in the States, in Canada, in many developed countries, you see it in the parliament here in Canada. What is the percentage of women in the parliament? 25%. In the States, 22%. In many other countries around the world. So it's time for, I think, not to wait for quota. We need to set up really a resolution by the United Nations that women's participation should be equal to men. 50-50, not to give a quota.
Yeah, I was just referring to the Arab because I grew up there and that's what I know most about. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. It exists everywhere in the world.
Yeah. I know that in Arab world, even the role of women, because the stereotype, the misinformation, they think women can do it. They are weak and they are not rational. I think this, they justify the men to justify their goal. And women, they believe in it. Sometimes some women, they believe in it. No, and also the other issue, it's important you raise it. The enemy of women are women. So you need women to come together, to work together, to support each other, to believe in each other. First, to believe in themselves and to believe in each other.
Thank you so much for bringing up this topic. It is very important, and that is like a whole other topic on its own because there's so many dimensions to it and so many things to go into. This interview has been truly, truly inspiring, and we were so honored that you came here today and you talked to us about all of this. You really have discussed ideas that we never thought of in that perspective, like the way you talked about health and the way you talk about channeling your hatred and not truly showing it and all that is, or not truly feeling it. I wouldn't say showing it, but feeling it. It is truly inspiring. So we wanted to thank you so much for that and for being here with us. It was truly an honor.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Wish you good luck and wish all of the world and our Christian fellows Merry Christmas.